Hello, blockchain enthusiasts. I'm going to wait for people to file in. We are starting early. I was the silly one and got the times mixed up, and so we are starting early. And so if you find me on here and you're like, I thought it started at a different time, you're correct. But because Boston is a busy man, we are going to accommodate his time. So without further ado, if you have found yourself here, this is the first episode of my new series of lives that I am calling Block Unchained. And Boston actually brought this name as a suggestion to me, and I sat with it a while and I really liked it because that unchained word has so much meaning because blockchain is an extremely complex technology and it's new and it's going to change the world as we know it. And how much change and what changes it is highly debated in this rabbit hole of a space that I've found myself in. So I'm going to invite Boston up if he is here. And we'll wait for him to come in. Let me share the live with him. And Boston, he's one of my OG friends here. I met him on actually one of Dark Horse's lives, and Boston and his insight into software and technology has been so valuable to me, and I always just feel so honored that he takes the time to talk to me and explain things. But today, for this live, he's going to talk about a project near and dear to his, and I think it's going to be fun to get to know these people that we get to see on a daily basis and get to know a little bit about their side projects and their passions. And what you'll find is we have real life heroes and leaders in our little community. And so I want Boston, I'm going to give him the entire screen, and he's going to talk to you about water.
Hello,
Let me
everybody.
pull it
Can you
up.
hear me?
Hi, Boston. Introduce
Hey.
yourself to, I can hear you. Introduce yourself to my audience, kind of how we met, how we got
Sure.
to talking about this topic, and
Absolutely.
why it's near and dear to your heart, why it's relevant to us right now, and kind of like if you want to touch on the technology side, and because for my audience, I'm wanting to kind of demystify the blockchain, but also bring them real world use cases and problem solves that we might get to see in the future. And you're one of the most innovative people I know, and you're actually building these solutions and using
Uh,
this technology that we talk about. So I just kind of want to bring it home. And you are the best person I know to start this out.
well, it's so
So
kind of you to
welcome,
say.
Boston.
Thank you so much for all your kind words and for having me on your inaugural show here. I appreciate the opportunity. And I see people in the chat there. I see Bob and Barry and others saying hello. So it's good to see you guys too. I know I haven't been on TikTok much lately, but I'm trying to carve out some time to come back here. But just been busy as you know, as Glam just said. I've been busy working on innovations. Working in the space. I've got my company Boston Agile Labs, and we're working on various things there. Um, yeah. So on the topic at hand, water. Water is. It seems like maybe on one hand you're like, well, what are you talking about water? Why does water matter? Like I flush water down the toilet every day, but water is, this it's almost a stunning mystery, water. First of all, we're made out of water. Good water, like our health. Like if we don't have good access to good clean water, like we can't live. Um, and then even there, like the water that we do have access to in most municipalities, at least in North America, it's often riddled with all kinds of poisons and just because of the way that the filtration system works. There's over time, everybody's pharmacopoeia, all the medications that people take, it ends up in the water supply, and so there's all these strange mixtures of chemicals that go in there, and then we end up en masse sort of just drinking the sludge So there's not enough attention paid to water purification, and not enough attention paid to sort of the overall effect that water and the quality of the water that we take in every day has upon our health and our longevity and the clarity of our mind and our ability to be present, in our life. So, so and that's really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, and that's super important stuff. Everything I just said is not something that everybody knows that already, even though we don't think about it as much as we should. Like, that's nothing compared to some of the stuff I want to get into with you here. So, um, I would say that, I suppose not to dwell too long on the question of just water and good health, but if I would just encourage everybody here to drink as much more water than you're drinking today, and also to take steps to purify that water. You'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, don't buy a distiller and drink distilled water," because the distilled water, they'll tell you, will have the effect of leaching the electrolytes from your body because it's pure, and it has a kind of negative attraction to ions, and so it'll pull those ions through your body, and then you'll end up becoming less hydrated. And to some extent, in a pure sense, that point is true. However, if you drink water with lots of good foods like, proteins, like, meat, various kinds of meat, and not everybody eats meat, or if you don't eat meat, then a highly varied vegetarian diet, where you're getting lots of electrolytes and lots of minerals and nutrients. If you're eating well and drinking perfectly pure water, then you're fine. Yeah, people ask about the water and fruits. So this is tricky. With the water and all the produce, like, because the produce that we eat in the grocery store, the irrigation comes from water that isn't very well purified. I mean, hopefully, if you're lucky, you have a farmer with a good well, and the well isn't part of a water table that's been contaminated. These days, that's getting harder and harder, especially in light of all the train derailings that we're having, record numbers of train derailings where we're seeing chemicals being dumped into our environment, more than we've ever seen, I think, ever before. So I don't know. There could be some serious. This speaks even more to kind of the importance of what I'm saying, like the importance of, just for your own wellness and the wellness of your family, to start taking a little more seriously. Like, hey, maybe I should buy a water distiller and just keep it running. Buy a 5 gallon, buy like a 5 gallon glass bottle, and just constantly be filling that thing. Maybe get one of those 5 gallon things, like the gravity wells, not the gravity wells, but the gravity water coolers where you just pour the thing on top. Maybe just keep one of those at all times, be distilling water and then pouring it into, one of those things. Have two of them, let's say. Then dump the full one on top of your gravity, water cooler, and have the other one ready to go. And just kind of keep yourself in a circulation with that. Um,
Yeah.
so that, I think that can do nothing but help. Now, again, if you drink nothing but distilled water and you don't eat you don't get your electrolytes and minerals from other sources, then that will be a problem for you. But if you do eat, you get your electrolytes from other sources and you have perfectly clean water, um, no problem. I mean, I do it. I've done it for years, and it hasn't harmed me. I will say though, if I'm not attentive to eating, um, like having lots of electrolytes and minerals from other sources, and I'm just drinking a lot of water, not eating a lot, then I do start noticing after like a couple days, like getting the muscle start. But so just be aware, just kind of eat, stay balanced with it. Now, the upside is also the possibility that you can buy. There's products out there where you can buy, like electrolyte drops for water.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way you could do it. I don't do that, but if you're worried about it, you could totally do that. Yeah, people are saying, what about just salt? I do that too. I like Himalayan salt. I know there's some people who say Himalayan salt is toxic. I don't know. I don't believe that. People say it, but I don't believe it. Because Himalayan salt has like tons of minerals in it and electrolytes. So a lot of times I will take, for every 1,000 liters of distilled water I make, I'll take just a little bit of Himalayan salt and just mix it in, and that does have a good effect. Um, but Celtic water with salt probably similar. Any like salt is good, but thing is, salt is just two electrolytes. Whereas Himalaya, like if you get table salt, for example, whereas even kosher salt, whereas Himalayan salt and perhaps Celtic salt as well is a mixture of all kinds of things, minerals and and electrolytes and so on. So I like that. And in fact, one of the projects that I'm working on is I'm creating a company called Himalaya, and it's going to just be this. It's just going to be double distilled water with Himalayan salt in it. So anyone could do it. It's nothing fancy, but I've been working on a really pretty brand for it, like with that kind of pink color, like in the bottling and everything, and all glass. So it's a be pretty expensive bottle, but it'll be
Hmm,
the most pure, water that you can get. Um,
that's incredible.
yeah, so that'll be a cool thing. So that's something I'm working on, like Himalaya, and then I want to take a percentage of the my son is really into mountain climbing, so we're thinking maybe we'll open a like an office there in Nepal somewhere for this, and then like send a proceed of all the profits to cleaning up the Himalayas. But so that's like a project that we're trying to get off the ground. But anyhow, so someone just made the comment distilled water is not pure. Only spring water is natural. So distilled water is totally pure. In fact, it's perhaps maybe to your point, too pure. It's like a chemical reagent. It's like, it's like something you'd have in a science lab. It's perfectly clean. Um, but the problem is, like the reason you would you might be interested in distilled water with the minerals back in. Like when you have distilled water, it's perfectly clean. And what I'm really talking about here is the fact that any water you source is not clean. And not a lot of people have access to a mountain spring and even if they did have access to the mountain spring, the water table is so polluted in the world. Um, so so yes, there's such a thing as too much purity, and I've already talked a bit about the downside of that. But the upside is, you have perfectly clean water, and you can always add back in the minerals and electrolytes that you need to kind of prevent some of the issues that people are pointing to. Water is water, by the way. It's H2O. That's it. Like, but we've evolved to live in a planet where we've evolved to get our minerals and electrolytes from water, but we can also get it from the foods we eat as well. So my point is, and this is and again, I'm not a doctor, and this isn't medical advice, but this is just sharing with you things that I've done in my life. Also, the best water that you could buy, as for consuming it on the market, in my opinion, is right now today is smart water. All it is double distilled water with the electrolytes added back in, which is what you need. It's perfectly clean. It's perfectly clean. Let me tell you, when I take my regular tap water and H3O, I think H3O is called tritium, and it's not good. It's actually not good for you at all. It's not in heavy concentrations. But anyway, um, but let's see. But moving on. So yeah, so smart water is a good product. It keeps you very anyway, if you don't have access to all this other stuff I'm talking about, it's distilled with the minerals added back in, and that's really what it's all about. Okay, so now, like the importance of this is, if you don't drink enough water, your organs don't work. Like people die all the time in their 60s because their kidneys shut down because they spent an entire life of not being hydrated. That literally, renal failure in people's 60s. That's why they just didn't drink enough water. Your brain to function well, like it needs lots of hydration. So, and that doesn't mean like Coca-Cola and soda and so on, right? So, um,
LaCroix? What about LaCroix? And what do
uh,
you think about
carbon,
LaCroix?
my wife actually drinks a lot of that, and I guess it's fine. I don't really like. I have taken some and like distilled it just to see what's left, and it's pretty. It doesn't leave any like traces. I think it's made from pretty clean water, but it
Okay.
is carbonated, and I think there's some studies out there that show that excessive drinking excessive. So it's just something
Must be
there.
for women. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. So, I don't know. Like I just read one study about that, and I'm not sure, like, how reliable. Like, take that as you will, but there is at least one reputable study on that point. Um, all right, so we talked about water and its importance for life and so on, but like because of its importance and it's sort of being so central to to life, it's also therefore a precious commodity. And we're starting to see. That guy, his name escapes me right now. The guy that made a movie about who shorted the US dollar back in 2008. What is his
Michael
name?
Burry.
Barry,
Michael
thank you.
Burry.
Thank
He's
you.
trades
Yeah,
options for water.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this one thing he's into, and that's predictive bets on markets. And he's all in on water options because in the days to come, water is going to be like the most precious resource. You ever see that movie Dune? Like this world is going to get a little bit Dune-like, perhaps. And yes, in places where we're blessed, like I am, in the eastern seaboard of North America, we've got water all the time. As I told you, there's been some things that have happened lately that have such higher concentrations in the environment than we've ever seen before. These dioxins don't they stay in the with the water through the water cycle, even through distillation. And that's a serious problem that, like water distillation, like the stuff I've just been saying, isn't enough. Like the only way to get that clean is through electrochemical processes, like actual, like electrolysis is the only way to get clear of dioxins. So, and not everybody has the wherewithal to perform, electrolysis. Not to mention, typical like ordinary electrolysis, which we call brute force electrolysis, is very expensive because you've got to run a hell of a lot of energy through water to get it to electrolyze. And even there, if you're electrolyzing, a polluted, water source, then you're doing electrochemistry with dioxins. So it's not simple. It's a very nasty situation. Um, but that said, the solution to pollution is dilution. And so you can always go to like an ocean water source, for example, which is going to be highly get to an ocean water source and distill the ocean water and end up with clear clean water. So that's one, and not everybody has access to the ocean, granted. But if you're in an area like in Ohio or one of these areas that have been really hard hit by some of these these catastrophic uh, you know uh, what do you call them, train derailments, then this is something to keep in mind. So just in general, but there are most parts of the world, in fact, do not have access to clean water. It's obviously the highly populated places in the world where there is a reliable water source. But there's most places, like there's most of the places in the world that are very poor, where the highest poverty is. There's a correlation there with really poor quality of water. Obviously, all the kinds of health problems that I talked about earlier are uh, are manifest in those places because they have water, uh, of course, breed all kinds of bacteria and other kinds of things. If it's not, so when people are drinking dirty water and they don't have the means to properly handle sewage and all this kind of stuff, of course, with nothing that everybody knows this, but it just bears repeating that clean water as a commodity, especially in light of all the stage that I just set, is going to become more and more precious. So um, there's another project that I'm working on right now, which is a blockchain that's all about. It's really just all about the commodity of water. I'm a little torn about the idea because um, I feel on one hand it's a very sort of World Economic Forum type move to try and inventory the world's resources in this way. But on the other hand, I know it's coming no matter what. So I'm a little bit interested, and because this is a subject I'm very passionate about. I'm looking at, all right, how to quantize water, and then how to convey those blocks on some sort of market. And so that's a project I also have going on. So more to come about that. Um, all right. So what else? Now, now here's where we step off from the sort of ordinary or expected. Let's ask you some questions here. Let me pause. How much cost to do so per gallon if you know? Does saltwater cost more to clean? Oh, so no, and actually, if you have a one, let's call it a 1 gallon water distiller, okay? You could just take the water from the ocean and and run it through that thing. And what you would then end up with is a whole bunch of clean water as the output, and then a whole bunch of salt, right, and other impurities in the bottom. But there's only a handful of compounds that can ride with water through the water cycle, that is through being evaporated and then recondensed. Not very many molecules do that. So for the most part, clouds are perfectly clean. But dioxins are an exception to this, though. They are in that perfect like temperature space where they can coexist with the water vapors. So so it's very intentional that they were like dropping that these companies, these rail companies owned by BlackRock, um, you know, were derailing their trains filled with these materials.
Can you
Um,
explain what happens chemically? It seems that you kind of know it drove it put a fire, I think, underneath this passion for water, what the current event. What exactly coming from you and your understanding, what is the situation that we're looking at with dioxides in the water? Like what's your analysis of all this?
well, I just think let's say they stop now, keep with the dumping of these chemicals into the water tables of the farmlands. Like um, if they stopped right now, we would still be dealing with a few harvests where the grain, if it's being irrigated with this water that's affected in this way, um, there will be toxins that are part of those harvests, and so people will be eating, breads and other food products made from those agricultural products, uh, a whole range of products, right? And those things are going to be part of this harvest. So, I think another important thing that people need to get good at in the coming, and I don't want to be alarmist, but I do think it's important that people understand this, is like learn how to do a little bit of uh, you know, hydroponic farming, like vertical farming in your own home. You can grow an incredible amount of food with like 3 vertical stacks, like so abundant. Like it just produces so much food, lettuce and cabbage and tomatoes and cucumbers, and it just keeps giving. Especially if you keep the nice clean water on it, you keep the light on it that it likes, and you'll end up with so much abundant food that you can just grow in your own house. And back to the question of somebody asked, was it any more expensive or less expensive? It doesn't matter. It's the same price. So to run a gallon water distiller, it's like nothing. It's like 6 cents. Like I measure the power that is. I have like a power meter on the plug that I connect my distiller to, and
Mm-hmm.
it's 6 cents to run a gallon. So it costs nothing.
Interesting.
And whether it's salt water or any other water, it's the same. The only difference is how much you got to clean out of the distiller at the end. So if you're doing ocean water, you're going to have to get a bunch of salt out of it at the end between runs. If you're doing tap water, regular tap water, I'll tell you what. When I first
It's
started on this
good.
journey to clean water, um, it was it was a situation where I I could not believe like the garbage that was in the bottom of this thing when it was done. Like the first time I ran the distiller, it was just city water, and at the bottom was this brown sludge that smelled like death. Seriously, death, and it's like a lot of it in every single 1 gallon of water. Um,
Yuck.
and
Yuck.
and and then like even then like before you drink it, I remember back in those days, I would smell it. I'd be like, this smells like a fucking swimming pool. Like it's disgusting. Like, and finally I
Chlorine, a
said, you know what?
chlorine smell.
Chlorine and yeah, and so actually so at the this is years ago now, but then I started distilling it, and I'm like, what is this? So I isolated all the disgusting stuff, sent it away to a lab for analysis, and there was so much poison in there, just carcinogens and of all kinds, and just unimaginable chemicals. So even like your city water that's supposedly quote unquote treated is filled with nasty chemicals, not the least of which is fluoride, which is intentionally added to the water and is nothing but poison. Look at your toothpaste
Okay.
tubes. It says on your toothpaste tubes, because it contains fluoride, do not eat this. If you do eat it, call the poison, call the poison control immediately, right? That's what it
Uh-huh.
says on toothpaste. And that's because it contains fluoride, which is deadly poison. So, the kind of toothpaste I use baking soda and hydrogen peroxide, and it's like
Interesting.
totally
Okay.
not toxic and does a better job than that
Your
poison
teeth,
would ever
you
do.
have all your teeth, so
I did. Yeah, good to
you have
go.
a beautiful smile.
So, but yeah, so where I was going somewhere, I don't remember where, but oh, just that the the water that you guys generally have access to, if you're not doing anything about, take this seriously, for your sake and the sake of your families. And a distiller's like, you can get one on Amazon. Like Vivo makes a good one for like between 60 and $80. You can get it on Amazon. So it's be through the senses. It receives a 1 octave of light energy is what is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Like those notes are
Okay.
the colors. And then there's 10 octaves, 50 octaves below that 1 octave that we see as color. 50 octaves below that are the range from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And those 10 octaves are 10 cycles of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi,
I
fa,
was about
sol,
to
la,
ask,
ti,
you're
do.
talking octave in terms of
Yeah, right.
um,
So 50
scale.
octaves above the
Okay.
sound, it's the light waves are color. We perceive as color. 50 octaves below that are 10 octaves that we perceive as sound. Now, we don't perceive that. In this case, it's not light. Like sound is mechanical vibration through the air. But
Okay.
that's so it's a second order effect. A primary order effect, and happening at that same frequency, though, we would hear. Like if you have a transformer, like at a 60 hertz transformer, let's say,
Uh-huh.
that's electrical energy.
You can
That's
hear it.
light. Electrical magnetic energy is light, no matter what frequency it is. We call it's all EM. It's all light. The light that we call light that we see with our eyes is just 1 octave of light. But the light way down
Okay.
here, the light way at the bottom, the ones that we hear, there's also light at those wavelengths. And when light at those wavelengths push air around, that's what we hear as sound. And so our brain converts the second order effect into an experience of sound in our human experience, in our human consciousness. And so now we've got, the ability to see through 1 octave, and with ability to hear through 10 octaves of energy down at that lower level. So then when we go way higher than light, we have another 20 or so octaves. Now this is where like the periodicity of the table of atoms, like the periodic table of elements,
Okay.
is um, uh, most of the time people just say, oh well, it's a function of the atomic mass. But what I believe is no, of course it's not just that. That's just another symptom of, it's actually just another manifestation of the octave. It's light, just like everything's light. Matter is light, and the periodicity of the periodic table is, once again, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and all the semitones, are the various, like there's more than 8 elements per row. So you've got tones and semitones and demitones, and each of those tones at that high level organize themselves into the very high energy light, organize itself into matter that through our mind we perceive as material. And then from that materiality, there are three more senses: the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and the senses of touch. So then in this way, you can see how all of matter is just, part of this continuum of light, all the way up to a point. And then you can even see how, like, radioactive materials, when they begin to decay, they decay into light, very high energy light. In fact, you don't want to be around it because it can shoot, neutrons into you and give you cancer. But yeah, so you can like it's not even that speculative. It seems like obvious. Although I must say, Western science does not recognize the last part of what I just said is true. I think it's true, but it's not widely understood. Or I'm wrong, but it could be that as well. But it just I think that the universe is too elegant of a place to have like, oh, in this section it works this way, and over here it works a different way. Like it just doesn't ring true for me. All right. So I set that stage for a reason because water is, made up of two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. And hydrogen is perhaps the most abundant element in the entire universe. There's more of that stuff in this universe than anything else. Hydrogen. And and water is is the most plentiful substance on the planet. It's the most abundant substance on the planet. And we're made out of the stuff even. Like it's special stuff, clearly. Another funny way to think about water is it's like whenever you burn something, it's what you're really doing. It's combustion, and combustion. What that means is it's the covalent. Um, it's the molecular combining of some atom or compound with oxygen. That's it. When you attach an oxygen to some other element, and energy is either released, usually released. It's either exothermic or endothermic reaction. It usually is the oxygen comes together and it releases energy, and that's called burning. Like whenever we burn something, it's combustion, right? Oxygen comes together with something and heat is released, burning. Well, this combustion, uh, it happens. It's essentially like the basic. It's like it's the most basic thing. Like all the metabolism that we do in our bodies. It's like
Okay.
you know we we're just combined. We're eating food, we're consuming water so that we have the materials to perform a very slow combustion, and this combustion happens along these metabolic pathways that like very minutely apportions the energy from that combustion, and stores it in this molecule called ATP, and your body uses that as a kind of energy currency to like allow you to live. So anyway, um, hydrogen and oxygen then are these two primal things. Hydrogen is incredibly plentiful, and oxygen is what you need for burning. And water then is the combination of the two things. So it's basically what is left when you burn hydrogen. Water is the ashes of burnt hydrogen. That's what it is. And we're and
Say that one
hydrogen.
more time for me. One more time.
What?
So sorry.
No, it's okay. So when you combine anything with oxygen
Okay.
covalently, and
Okay.
what happened? That's called combustion, and usually the byproduct is
Okay.
the exhaust or the chemical that
Okay.
is created by that combination and energy. So that's combustion. So
Okay.
when hydrogen covalently
I
combines with
track.
oxygen, energy is released, and the exhaust is water, and so therefore the ashes of the ashes of combusted hydrogen is water, and we're made out of those ashes. So it's kind of a funny way to look at it, but that's what it is. Um, and then, of course, water has all these very special properties. It's a very unusual substance in that it's a liquid crystal for one thing. So it has a
Okay.
crystalline lattice, and it's um, uh, but it's liquid, right? So there's not a lot of materials that are liquid crystals. There's some others, but water is a very plentiful one. The other ones are much more rare. Now, so as I've said, we're kind of coming now into. I want to talk about the work of someone called Dr. Masaru Emoto, who
Okay.
took this idea of consciousness and water to a really interesting level. He was also, a scientifically trained person, and he was uh, and what he did with water was he came up with a technique for someone said oh, thank you, Spike Dog Ball. I could just talk all day too, so just shut me up if I get bored. um,
No, cheers.
so yeah, so this guy, he came up with a technique called water crystal photography. Okay. So
Okay.
water crystal photography is where he became very interested in the shape of water. like the shape of the water molecule itself. Because he was interested in particular about this water crystalline structure because it's such a rare thing in the universe to have a liquid crystal. And so he came up with this technique where he figured out how to take a picture of water right at the moment that it freezes. And someone asks what dimension is water's crystal lattice from. We can talk about that in a bit. Don't worry, this conversation is going to go all the way there. Um, and so um, he figured out like, okay, right at the moment this water freezes, I've got this methodology now where I can capture a picture of it, and I can see the shape of the fract, like all crystals are all fractal. So there's like
Okay.
whatever you see on the macro side, on whatever you see large, it's that same way, that same structure all the way down. Well, he was like, okay, cool. I can take a picture of this thing and I can sort of see like how the molecules are lining themselves up. But what he found was, just like with snowflakes, they're all different. Like
Hmm.
they actually pull themselves into all kinds of different shapes. And he got interested in that question. He's like, well, why should they be? Why should they be different shapes? I mean, after all, it's just the magnetic polarity of the elements should entirely govern the conformational structure of the crystal lattice, shouldn't it? But no, it didn't. It had this incredibly varied expression. And after like spending a lot of time on this question, he started doing all kinds of rather interesting experiments where he started wondering, well, could it be that it's the quality of consciousness that the water finds itself in or around that has to do with the shape? And so he set out to prove or disprove this hypothesis. And so he started doing experiments. One experiment that he did is he took a big jar full of rice. He did two of them. And on one jar, rice and water, the rice filled with water. And on one jar, he labeled it, he put all these good words. I can't remember the words off the top of my head, but it was like love, harmony, joy, kindness. He put those words on a label on the bottle. And on the other bottle, he put words like hatred and darkness and death and destruction. And, and after like a couple of weeks, the water the one with the negative words was like filled with mold and black and gross, and the one with all the kind good words was just a thing. It was just an old thing of rice and water. It hadn't changed at all. So like this wasn't the very first experiment he did along these lines, but this was like an experiment that he did much later. And but it's a repeatable experiment. I've actually done the experiment. Um, in this through this and other results he began to get an inkling that it is the quality of the consciousness that the water finds itself in that has to do with the quality, if you will, the beauty of the shape that the water places itself in. And so then he
Okay.
took this idea to an even more, oh, hey, a little bit of crypto. It's good to see you. It has been a while. It's good to see everyone, by the way. Everybody who's here, I'm grateful for you guys being here on Graham's show and listening to the things that I have to say. And it's good to see everyone. But but yeah, so back to the the photography though. He started doing things like, okay, I'm going to freeze these things. While he was freezing and getting the picture, he would think directly into the water certain thoughts, and he has actually a book full of it. In fact, here's the book. I highly
Okay.
recommend it. It's called The
Yes,
Hidden Messages in Water. Is that backwards? I don't know if you can see it or not.
it is.
Does it look
But hidden messages of water.
Hidden
The
Messages in Water, Masaru Emoto. That's the book.
Masaru.
It's it's fascinating. He has he has um yeah. So with these pictures, he would like shoot thoughts of love, and the most beautiful crystals would come out, or he would shoot um thoughts of darkness and negativity, and then it would be all like black and like not symmetrical, and no, and the shapes were all broken, and it wasn't beautiful at all. And so he could do this just with the quality of his own consciousness being directed at his experiment, and it's provable and repeatable.
So
So
not
like
even speaking. So again, he thought, he just sent thoughts.
yeah, just sending, just because, like I said, we are swimming, whether or not you know, We are swimming through a sea of consciousness, and we are made out of that consciousness too. When people say in some mystical way, we are all one, they're not kidding.
Yeah.
Like we are all made from the cloth, this we are all fashioned from this cloth of consciousness. And yes, and within the center of each of our souls, let's say, we have the
Uh-huh.
ability to commune with that, not with words, but with like pure intention, pure something you can't really even describe with words, pure beingness.
Mhm.
You can claim your citizenship, if you will, as part of that no thing, that that
Okay.
that ocean of consciousness. You are a spark, you are a drop of that ocean, you are a drop of that ocean, and every drop of the ocean is not the ocean, but yet it's a in this indecipherable, inseparable part of the ocean, right? So you're just that
Okay.
same way. But instead of just being a drop of an inert ocean, you're you, each one of you, are a divine spark of creative and destructive power, just as the entire field of consciousness is. So,
My mind
that
right now, like your words are actually blowing my mind in and of themselves because I've never framed it in this way.
well, there you are.
I've never heard it and it's never resonated like this. It's
Well, good.
incredible.
I'm glad. I'm happy to blow your mind. So, so there we have then, I see some people talking about exactly the right words, energy and vibration. Absolutely. All energy is vibration. And that's why, Bob D, I saw you said you did it with music earlier. I too love music. I'm a musician. And I think a lot of people who understand music, a lot of people that have an inkling or an intuition about the universe as being music, I think are people who are intimate with music, because it's very when you begin to think of the universe as a cacophony, a symphony of vibration, and when you've spent a good part of your life working with vibration to create a symphony of pleasant sounds, hopefully pleasant sounds, any kind of sounds really, um, then there's a connection there. There's a it's like those things are related. It's like God, whatever that is, however you think of God, um, set into motion a symphony of vibration that we experience because of those vibrations. And so there is a relation between the ultimate creator, let's say, of all this, and the creative mind of the musician who sets about doing it in a much smaller way. Someone earlier said, as above and so below. That's really what that means. That things that are happening at a realm beyond where we normally exist as human beings, the rules of the game here in this little space of ours are the same on higher dimensions, higher orders of reality. The rules are the same. It's all just vibration. And vibration, in its purest sense, the tissue of creation is light, and the energy of light is love. And so, and that's how it all kind of hangs together.
And so,
So
Boston, can I ask a woo-woo question at this time?
you may.
Okay. Now, maybe I want to get what your thoughts and how you would put this into practice, or if
Sure.
you've put it into practice. So, you're talking about this energy and our thoughts. Now, in your opinion, can our thoughts, and you talked about the quantum field for a little bit.
Yeah.
The Nobel Peace Prize winners were awarded that because they talked about quantum entanglement. Does
Hmm.
that play a role in all of this? The quantum entanglement, that
Yeah.
idea because they said manipulating, was it a proton over here, affected the proton in a completely different place.
Yeah.
And so what it sounds like that might also be along the lines, yes, no. And so then if so, this whole idea of sending good vibrations and or consciousness and prayer and awareness is important, and it comes back to water and vibration and light.
Well, yes, it does. But so
Am I
two different things here. Well, certainly,
okay?
like water is a manifestation in our human experience. It's these notes of hydrogen and oxygen. We talked about like it's
Yes.
vibration, therefore made of light, right? It's high vibrations.
Yes.
And we perceive it as human beings. We perceive it as water. Um, in the context of this discussion about water. And but space and time. See, these are like in our Newtonian understanding of space and time, it's like it's linear. Like there's this time's arrow flows, and it flows uninterrupted, and there's a point here where I am, and a point there where you are, Graham, and and the space between us, and the time to traverse that space. Like these are the rules of our understanding of the universe in the Newtonian physics model. However, the quantum mechanical model is which is much closer to the underlying reality of our existence. It's totally nonlinear. Like
Okay.
time's not a thing, space is not a thing, distance is not a thing. Like time, space, and distance. Like these are ideas that like hang together well for the purpose of creating a cohesive human experience, so that this dream of being human um, can play out in a sensible way, and it's quite beautiful. And actually, it's often been referred to by the poets as this beautiful illusion of life, right? Row your boat
Uh-huh.
gently and merrily. Life is but a dream. There's some truth in that, and
Okay.
I'd say that in this quantum understanding, this sort of non-dimensional. So like we have dimensionality because we have positions in space: one dimension, two dimensions, three dimensions, points in space, time, distance, and so on and so forth. Well, think about this for a minute. When you take an aircraft, so all that's linear. Now we want to get our head into what is nonlinearity, okay? And nonlinearity is when Oh, here's a good example. So, what's the rule they always teach you in math class? Oh, 1 divided by 0. Can't do it. It breaks the whole thing. Math broken. So sorry. Go home. Um, what does 1 divided by 0 really mean? It's actually an expression of nonlinearity. Like if you say I'm going 1 mile and like 5 miles in an hour, that's 5/1. 5 miles divided by 1 hour. Okay,
Okay.
distance over time. Well, if the distance is units 1 and the time is unit 0, then we've just said 0. We've just teleported. We've just
We
done
just
not it's we've just made a nonlinear movement through space. We've just manifested quantum tunneling, or we've just had an implementation of uh, quantum entanglement, right? So like so
okay.
so 1 divided by 0 is not really a problem. It's just a problem for the typical human understanding. But
Us
but for
here.
consciousness,
Okay.
for consciousness, it's no problem at all. And what scientists are beginning to admit is that and they've actually, with the admission of quantum tunneling, like more than 100 years ago, 120 years ago, they they already had this problem. They were like, okay, there's it's all our physics is broken. But it wasn't until like last year that they really said, you know what, it's nothing like what we thought. And so I think too, like the people that run the world, they already know the deal. And it's no coincidence that in 1 year, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, Newtonian physics is not a thing. And then in that same year, they're like, yeah, artificial intelligence, yeah, here you go, guys, here it is. And like all of a sudden, these like in one single year, the timing of all these revolutionary advances, it's no accident. Like they're prepping the herd for sort of like what's next, right? This sort of higher understanding, I think, is part of that. But
Boston, can
um,
I ask you what is next?
yeah,
What do you think?
so I think a lot of technology. Well, for one, so that's a good segue. So where I wanted to end up with, like we've talked now about the relationship between the human consciousness and reality, as well as the ability for human consciousness to impart a measurable effect on matter in a way that's scientifically controllable. Um,
Okay.
and so and that's all very important. And by the way, there are amazing people out there talking about things like this. One of my favorites, um, well, probably the first one that ever blew my mind on this topic, um, was when his first book came out, when his book first came out years ago, was Eckhart Tolle and the Power of Now. So if you haven't read that book before, do so. It's amazing. But there's a guy who kind of picked up where Eckhart left off. He's very popular right now, actually, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's really
Okay.
into the quantum field and things that I also agree on. Again, my work has been parallel along these lines to these other people. So, but I do appreciate what they're doing because it's very in line with my own pursuits. But Dr. Joe Dispenza is wonderful. He's a neurosurgeon. No, not a surgeon, a neuroscientist anyway, and he studies the brain. But he's also like, what happened to him was he was paralyzed, and he was a doctor, and he was paralyzed, and he thought his life was over, but he just refused, and he went in and he found his own ability to commune with that sort of quantum level of reality. He healed himself. He just became unparalyzed, and then he
That's
was like, what?
incredible.
Yeah, and he was like, what the hell was that? So he spent the rest of his life sorting that out, and now he's got it down. Like his neuro. Have you at all studied near death? I back in college, there were a few times when I studied near myself nearly to death, but no near death experiences. Um, but I have had some experiences that are that might be kind of what you're looking for. That we can talk about some other time. Like in my own practices in meditation and other such things, I have had out of body experiences that are interesting, but they're not the end all be all or anything like that. But that does, when you have experiences like that, it does tend to, it makes it a lot easier to understand how your consciousness is not seated, sort of between your, it's not seated behind your eyeballs. It just, it's just the trick of the, it's just the trick of the mind, if you will. And you just feel like you are your body. But when you have
I've
experiences
been
with,
trying, so I have
Mhm,
a question because I've been trying to lean into this idea actually,
mhm,
especially like I've been saying the term, I'm sitting with it and just feeling like what type of feeling it gives me and going with it. If it feels
mhm,
good, and not in like I want to feel good. There might be
mhm,
some evangelical Christians that are like, you're not supposed to do what feels good. That's how I've been trained, right? But
mhm.
like not in the terms of wishy-washiness. Does it make me feel good? Does it not?
No,
But does
no,
it
yeah, no,
sit
well,
right with you? And I think
yeah,
that that's talking to the deeper conscience that you're
yeah,
talking about, possibly this whole idea that um, this words, vibrations, like so, if an idea resonates with you, that's all kind of in the same way, and how we talk to ourselves too. Because I'm trying to get better at that myself.
hmm.
So
That's good. Yeah, I think there's a trick to all this, and it has to do with like coming to an understanding of, it's not a conceptual understanding. It's like it's like what's the thing? It's like beginning to perceive your, how do you say that? How do you say it? It's like, okay, when you're still in your mind, totally still, and you're just seated in that stillness, and like maybe it's because like maybe it's a daydream, like you kind of
Mhm.
switch into a different state, and you're in this
Yep.
daydream, and it's a pleasant daydream, and you're not really, and you're aware that you're having this sort of daydream experience, but you're not really, you're not engaged with it in the same way that you are, for example, you and I in this conversation.
Correct.
And there's like this, and so there's this undercurrent of awareness that's happening beneath that daydream. And the reason the daydream is so pleasant is because you're really just seated there watching the daydream, right? And it's just sort of happening, and you're just not reacting to it. And so like there's a one less very small little glimmer of what I'm talking about, like where there's this difference between you and the activity of your mind, like the observer of the thoughts and then the thoughts. And the more that you can create space, the separation between the observer of the activity of the mind and the activity of the mind itself, the more that what we're talking about here becomes apparent to you in a non-conceptual but rather experiential way. And so then what it becomes about is that joy, that compass that you were talking about, where it's like I feel this gives me happiness, and so I therefore think I want to pursue it. Well, it's more about like, does it, you know, what is it sort of, does what's the joy, the vibration of joy that I
Yes,
receive
the
from this thing?
vibration.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, and so there's like, there, words kind of begin to fail what we're pointing to here, but I think you understand me. Um,
It is so overused. Those words of vibes, but or that we're vibing. But really, whenever you walk into a room, whether the energy's there, whether it's vibing or not vibing, whether people are vibing with each other or it's being forced. Like
yep.
we know we use these terms and we get this sense, but it's like you're putting also a scientific frame around it. And that's so fascinating.
Conceptual elements, right? It has to be, it can't just be like nonsense that doesn't hang together. And so you asked a little while ago, what's next? Well, I think this quantum understanding is about to really be sort of handed down. Like I think, I think the world's going to. There's a lot of you've heard a lot by now that we're going to go through a massive population uh, collapse, and I do think that we're on the precipice of that. I think there's going to be a lot fewer people in the world, within the next 10 years, and those fewer people are going to be sort of blessed with, if you will, you know, the gatekeepers are going to like let the flood out of information, um, and so those people who are left will be working with incrementally higher facts than we used to have, and we'll be given a lot of these, like, the artificial intelligence is on one hand potentially very threatening to us, to the way of our the way we make livings now, but maybe it won't be like that. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to paint too happy a picture of the future, but I also don't want to be too pessimistic either. But there does exist
Right.
the possibility for the way that we situate that we or the way that we situate to work, our whole relationship to work, and the way that we create as human beings, like the tool sets that we're being given now, and the truth about the nature of reality that's beginning to seep in. These things could combine to create a pretty happy place to be living, like a place where humans can like really explore the things they care about and find fulfillment in what they're doing in ways that, like, there's a lot. So I don't know. That's speculation on my part. I mean, there are some people who paint pictures of the future that's quite dystopian, but I do think that we have the power to create our own future. So,
I do too.
whatever
I do
whatever
too.
power, and it's exactly the power that we have to create our future is exactly the thing we've just been talking about, right?
Yes.
um, our ability to use our mind, Emoto's ability to impress his consciousness on water and create a conformational change on matter with his thoughts is exactly what we're talking about. But because the whole thing's a dream, just like in your dream, you can change, you can have any experience you want in your dream if you're especially if you're in a lucid dream. In this life, you can create the experiences that you want in the same way that the dreamer creates the experiences that they have in their dreams. It's just that it takes a little longer. You have to be more forceful in how you plant the seeds in your subconscious, and you have to water those seeds in your subconscious every day with good and strong and creative energy. And yeah, using AI to your advantage. That's right. And then those seeds will grow, and those seeds will sprout. The harvest of that will be the good conditions that surround you in your life. So it's very important. You've got to weed. You've got to always be weeding the garden of your life in this way. You cannot let the weeds settle there, and things that you don't want to grow, pull those out, throw those out. You don't want them in your garden. Um, so this is the talk about water, and you see how water has taken us in this meandering journey. The last thing I want to touch on, because we're already over time, is um, the great potential of water, the greatest potential of water, to be a fuel source. Because water is, as I've said, hydrogen and oxygen. It's all when we burn gasoline, the component, the active component of gasoline is hydrogen. Like, that's really all you're burning, and the rest is just a bunch of carbon chemical, carbon uh, based molecules that amount to pollution. Um,
Yeah.
and so, no, but as I've said, water is water is um, already burnt. It's already ashes. So how how are you going to take the ashes out of your I don't know, your cigarette tray and turn it back into a cigarette, right? So even though cigarettes are disgusting, I don't know why that example came to me, but um,
Ashes.
yeah. So but yeah. So how would you do that? So there's a serious thermodynamic problem there, right?
Yeah.
But But just like we talked about, the thermodynamic problem only exists in a Newtonian frame of in a Newtonian physics understanding. In a quantum mechanical understanding, there's a workaround. Um, and so think about this for a moment. If you have, What's a good way to say this? So nonlinearity is the key. Okay, um, quantum tunneling is the key. Um, quantum entanglement, which you raised earlier, is a part of this. So there are some physical possibilities about how we can unbake this cake of the already burnt the already burnt hydrogen, which is water, and turning it back into fuel. And here's how it works. But first, conceptually, I want to like lay down some framework. So um, if you have okay, so like an airplane. Um, a good way to say it. Okay, do this. Okay, imagine a boat on the water. Okay, and
Okay.
that boat riding through the water. Um, it leaves behind it a wake, right?
Yes.
And so as you cruise through the water, a wake parts. So part that wake is like the effect, and the boat is like the cause. And even after the boat's gone, the waves, maybe it's in the middle of a river, so the waves just keep lapping the shore for a little while. Boat's long gone, but the waves are still there. Cause and effect. Um, and again, it's perfect. It's like the boat is like this particle, and the particle moving through space produce these waves, and the waves have this effect on the shore.
Sure.
That's a very linear situation. All right, now let's take it up a notch. Um, let's take an airplane, okay? And the airplane's flying through space. It's a particle, mass moving through space, and it leaves behind it like a jet trail, okay? And that jet trail kind of similar. It like comes out and sort of widens behind the jet, and but it's directly but the cause is the jet. The cause is that particle, the jet, and the wake is is the exhaust, and it sort of spreads out, and the exhaust is directly connected to the jet on a, until the jet travels faster than the speed of sound, and then all of a sudden the situation becomes wildly different. Now
Okay.
the jet pulls ahead of its wake. Like it's no longer directly, the cause and effect are now broken. Cause is out here, and effect is being manifested beyond, over here, right?
Okay.
And so and that goes for like now is even the sound of that the jet produces is like can't even keep up with the jet, right? So there's
Is
a
that the
non
that's the sonic boom we're talking about? You just described.
well, the sonic
Is
boom
that the
is something
cause?
that happens because of uh, interesting reasons, but that's not my point. My point is just
Okay.
the cause and the effect in terms of sound at that point have been broken. Like
Okay.
it used to be the sound was emanating from the exhaust of the jet right there. Right at that point where the engines were screaming, you were hearing it right there at its loudest. But soon as that jet breaks the speed of sound, no longer. Now the sound appears to occur well behind the physical position of the particle. Okay, so you've got there's nonlinear break between cause and effect that's happening. It's already a very counterintuitive situation that we don't usually think about, but this is what's happening in nonlinearity. Okay, and the
Okay.
faster that jet's going, the bigger that space between the cause and the effect is. Now, in an atom, with inside of an atom, what we call the particle concept of the atom, we call this space between this uh, well, we call this space in between. Let's call it the valence orbitals. Let's call it that because there's a relationship between the jet and these valence orbitals. We call it the band gap. Okay, it's a band gap. And you might have seen the band gap before, like in an emission or absorption spectra of a given element, where you'll see like a rainbow of colors and then black, and then a rainbow of colors and then black, or vice versa. That what I just described was the absorption spectrum. There's the emission spectrum, which is the same thing but reversed. So I hope I'm not losing people here, but I'm just trying to say that like so for every, it turns out that for every medium, there is a relationship between the speed of the speed of a particle moving through that medium and the speed that the wake kind of moves away from that particle's movement. So for water, for example, there's a speed of sound underwater, right? And it's different than the speed of sound in the air because every medium has its own relationship to this. Well, mass in the medium of the vacuum has the same situation. Okay? And so when mass moves to this fastest speed, the speed where cause and effect are no longer connected, guess what happens? The mass blinks out of existence, actually. And this is what we call the speed of light. At the speed of light, the mass no longer is part of our three-dimensional spatial temporal cage because the cause and effect has been broken. But the problem is we, the observers, can no longer perceive because it's outside of our universe at that point. It's extra-dimensionally traveling now. And so this is what is happening actually inside of atoms. That the electrons, what we call electrons in the particle conception of the atom,
Yes.
in certain conditions, the electrons can be accelerated, and they do it all the time. They can be accelerated so fast that they change energy states. And they don't do this by jumping from one track to the other. They do it by quantum tunneling. They leave the universe and instantaneously reappear with a higher or lower energy state. And that's what the absorption and emission spectrum are actually showing. And the band gaps in between are those spaces where nothing exists because and so I went into all that background, and I may have lost a few people there, and if I did, I'm
That's
sorry.
insane. So
Yeah.
wait, so you're telling me that we have particles that quantum jump? I'm dumbing it down.
Well, I'm telling you that quantum tunneling is what this is, and it happens constantly. There's something called the non-decaying spin of the electron. The electrons just keep spinning, and again, electrons only exist in the particle conception of the atom. The wave conception of materiality isn't even atomic at all. So there's two different conceptions that are happening at the same time. One is entirely for the benefit of the human observer, and the other one is how things actually work. And somehow, the universe knows when a person's looking, and when a person's looking, it jumps itself into this particulate model, and only when they're looking, which is fascinating but true. And this is another part of the whole. Another part of the whole understanding that's starting to come forward in physics, and that recent admission that the universe isn't what we think it is. What I'm telling you is what they're slowly saying, what they'll eventually say in full. But
You've heard it here first.
yeah, well, there's others who I'm sure know it.
Yeah.
Long story short, now all of this back to water and how water can become fuel. So when you take water, which is atom, oxygen and hydrogen, it's a molecule of oxygen and hydrogen, and if you apply it, remember I talked about how nonlinearity is the key to possibly unbaking the cake, right? So if you take water and you put it in between two plates, like two plates of a capacitor. First of all, what is a capacitor? A capacitor is a device, an electronic component that has two metal plates with an insulator in between. And it's very strange, capacitors. If you charge one plate, the other plate will magically charge with the opposite polarity, even though
Okay. Yep.
there's nothing touching, like there's an
Okay.
insulator in between. So this is already very mysterious all by itself. And frankly, nobody understands how it works. And definitely the way that it works is through these mysterious quantum. I should say it's not that nobody knows. It's that the party line of Western science pretends not to know, or maybe they actually don't know. But the reason it works in reality is because of the quantum nature of things. But regardless, the capacitors are mysterious, and they tie us to the sort of quantum reality of life. It's in a place where nature is sort of showing upper skirt a little bit, and it's always been a question mark for physics all this
Yeah.
while.
Huh.
And so anyway, so there we are in the middle of this capacitor, and if you take two metal plates and you put water, especially distilled water, which is a great electrical insulator or dielectric, you put that in between them, and then you charge up those plates with pulses. So let's just not talk about pulses. Let's just say first pulse. Let's talk about the first pulse. So with that first pulse, you charge it up. Um, Maybe too much. So David said, maybe a little too much devil's lettuce for this level. So you charge it up with and while it's charging, the positive plate, okay, is going to attract the negative hydrogen, and the positive plate is going to attract uh, the oxygen. Okay, and
Okay.
so now you're going to get this. You're going to get the water molecule orienting itself inside of this field. Now, most of the time when you derive hydrogen from water, what you're doing is you're putting it in this very situation, but you're blasting it with current, huge amounts of current, like 10 amps, 15 amps, as much amps as you can. Okay. And so the water gets hot fast. And yeah, of course, you electrolyze it, no problem. You're
Okay.
overwhelming the covalent bonds between the hydrogen and the oxygen. But in this exotic approach, which was first suggested by this brilliant doctor, the scientist and physician, and just maverick of a researcher named Andrea Puharich, and he lived not 15 miles from where I live when he wrote his first patent on the thermodynamically efficient electrolysis of water using the process I'm about to describe. And I always loved that he was so close to where I live now when he was writing, because I work on this very idea. Um, he has a patent, but it's not quite a blueprint, or I have this working already. And then there was a guy who followed him named Stan Meyer, who wrote like 20 patents on it and actually had a lot of evidence of his stuff working. But he too wasn't like, here's how you do it, because he's all tied into the cabal system of money, and you don't want to share these ideas because you got to get rich with them. And of course, it didn't
Right.
work out well for either of them because of it. But anyway, so long story short, I believe it's possible to use water as a fuel. And this nonlinear understanding of this quantum understanding, and this understanding of the power of consciousness, this understanding of and understanding of electronics. I think you can put the water molecule as the dielectric material in a capacitor, subject the water to a series of pulses, preventing current from arising, but only allowing very, very high voltages to arise. And then if you pulse, you can electrostatically winch the hydrogen and the oxygen apart. If you go to my website, alexpetty.com, I've written a lot about this. And if you go to my YouTube channel on this that's related to the subject, I think it's like Singularix is the site. You'll see video. I have videos up there where I'm actually replicating what these earlier pioneers did, but not to a huge effect, but to enough of effect where it's like, oh yeah, there it is, there it's working. But I still haven't figured out how to amp it up. But I'm about to sort of another one of the things I'm working on is like, and I got too many things I'm working on. It's part of my problem. Um, is trying to like get that really amped up so that we have now a much more abundant fuel source. Again, that could be dangerous. Every time people are too forthcoming with this, they end up dead. You asked earlier, like, what are we what are we in for in the future? You asked earlier. I hope it's a world in which this understanding that we've just been talking about on your live is much more common knowledge, and where
Mhm.
technologies like the one I've just been describing, which I see a path, a setting of science to create a comprehensive model for how it could actually work, but indeed could work. I think and I believe in the world that I want to create. And to the point of your podcast, you know, the innovators and the people who want to, like, what is the vision for the new world, and what are the people who want to help bring in that new world? What are they working on to create it? So this is all very apropos to sort of your mission, and that is allowing me to sort of share my vision of the world and sort of what I'm trying to do, the ways I'm trying to innovate to help bring that world about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Boston. And I feel like that there's a lot more that we could get to on a level that would help my audience. Especially that knowledge that you have of the positive thoughts and its influence on actual matter. And I think that we could really, as a community, um, just talking to a few personally, there's ones that are here that are lonely, that are going through things. And so I think it's important. And I'm even working on my own positive thinking, and hopefully that reverberates in my life. So hearing like the sign that there is something to this, that we can change our future through collective thinking like this, I think it's powerful. I really
Yeah,
do. And so I'm
yeah,
excited. So please come back on and share more.
absolutely. I had a request for somebody to play from someone. They asked if I'd play a song, which I'd be happy to do if the host is willing to allow me to do
Do it.
it. Okay.
Always. You're always open to play.
All right. Have some fresh, clear, clean water.
I'll get my LaCroix. Enjoy some LaCroix. Cheers. Thanks, David. Sorry I was early. I'm the one who fumbled up the. For some reason, I thought I was 9 o'clock. So,
Oh no, it's no
oh
worries.
well.
Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to.
I'm glad we're able to do it though tonight.
That'll work. Hold on, let me grab my.
Okay. Boston is a accomplished musician. He's going to play for us. Hey, Jesse. You're welcome, David.
My sons took my capo. They always steal my stuff, but they're oh no, you know what? I have to take it back. My capo was stuck on my guitar, but they do take my capo a lot. So
Okay.
all right, let's see here. Can you see me? Okay, just a second. Yeah. Shall I play an original song, or would you like to hear a cover song?
You decide. Okay.
I'll play an original.
Okay.
I can maybe turn on my ring light and make the light a little better. Maybe. Or worse, I don't know. That's worse. I'll just go with natural.
All natural.
All right, this is a song called Already Home. Can you hear it okay? Just a man falling from the outside in. Would I try to say that you don't believe in sin? And I can say most anything at all now. Lightly go, lightly wake up dreaming. I am trying to make a difference in my mind. I can see your thoughts just dissipating. I will go where I always have been. I am all ready, ready. It's time that I freed up this imagination. Mine, behind dark fences, I have placed it here for such a long time. And I can see, fly me like the sky. In my eyes, the stars, and I see everything all at once in circles. I can try to make a difference in my mind. I can see the old thoughts just dissipating. I will go where I always have been. I am all ready, ready, ready. Oh, Shallow. I am all ready. Already.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I know that you have an appointment,
I do have a
so
little bit more, but that's okay. They're understanding. But I will head off now. So thank you so much, everybody. I feel very blessed to have spent this time with everyone, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. And thank you so much, Graham, for having me on this new chapter of your lives, this topical sort of show you'll be doing, and I hope that you'll have me back sometime soon.
I will. I'm so excited and thank you for being one of my guests. And thanks for the idea and the encouragement. I appreciate it so much.
Of course,
We will see
my friends.
you.
Take care,
Let's
guys.
see. Ah, here I am. Boo.
Bye bye.
Bye. All right, let's get some guests up. I did start early because I fubbed up. Fubbed. Um, I got the time frames wrong. And so that was recorded. I have a brand new YouTube space that I will be uploading that to. Is there anyone in my chat that want to come up and talk about that? Jesse, Knowledge? Anyone? You are welcome to come up. Your residents, I never got this. Let's see. The YouTube name, David, is the same. It's called Block Unchained. There's nothing on it right now. I need to download the few episodes. But I hope that these will funnel over there. And then I can take some clips from that and make some content around it. Hey,
You did
Liv, how
so
are you?
you did so great. That was wonderful. I enjoyed that. That was
I
fun.
love listening to the people that we love in our community talk about things that they're so passionate about because and he's really solving a problem like clean water. I mean, there's very few things that are more important
You're right.
than
That
that.
was all of it was interesting because then it goes into
Hmm.
all of water and what's inside of water and energy and atoms and that was fantastic in life just in general. It was fantastic. I enjoyed that.
I like the merger between someone like him who is he's so scientific and he's so knowledgeable, but then he brings a spiritual element too. And I think that
Without
that's
saying
where
it,
a
he
lot of
does.
magic. Yes, I couldn't think of someone else more that I wanted on an endeavor like this than someone like him to be a part of it and walk through it. And you guys, Jesse, how are you?
I'm good. I hate I missed the first of it. I
I
was like, I
know
started scrolling through and I was like, what is going on? I've missed it. So I
it
have
was
to go
my
back and check
fault.
it.
I had him in a different time zone. And so whenever he said 8 o'clock his time, I thought it was going to be 9 o'clock my time. And it was
I understand. That happens to me
dyslexia,
sometimes too.
like, does again. Frozen? I'm frozen, David? Oh no. Here, should I? I'll hop. Should I hop off and hop back on? Am I frozen for anyone else?
Your phone.
I'm back. Okay, good, good, good. Hi, David. I in my chat a lot. That's awesome. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Jesse, how did you like that? Was that a good little
It
episode?
was good. I missed stuff though. Like I didn't
Oh, okay.
realize that you were on. And
Yeah.
so I caught like a good tail end of it though. And I was like, man, Boston, you've got me already intrigued. And then so I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
Well, he brought the heat at the end. He was knocking it out of the park then. So fascinating. I love that he touched on the whole speaking the positive to the right that experiment because that's hard. I have such negative self-talk and I heard it from Boston scientifically. It matters. It really does.
I think that we all do that to ourselves. If everybody's being honest with it, like I think that's just like the human nature of ourselves is to question and judge and like be harsh and criticize ourselves. I think we do that enough to ourselves.
We're our worst
Yeah.
critic. I mean,
Yes,
honestly.
absolutely. We're the hardest
Especially
stuff.
depending on, especially like that gets me into the Enneagram piece of it, like depending on your number on the Enneagram, some of us have that like inner critic that's just like so verbal. But I've gotten to a point to where I've tried to stop myself from letting myself verbalize it out. It's a, if I think it, it's one thing, but I'm not going to let myself speak it. I feel like there's something to that speaking it
Ace
that
says
brings it
he's an
almost into.
Enneagram 5. I'm an 8.
I'm a
Jesse, what were you
one.
again?
I'm a
1.
1 9 wing.
And I started the process of doing that to find out what number I am. And then I had to like pause it and it like disappeared. So then I had to start the whole thing over again. So I'm still in the process. I don't know what number I am. I wish I did.
Well, Jesse's gonna have a live where she has kind of are you the expert or is it your friend
No,
that
I
you
have a
have on there?
friend who does it. So I'm going to see if I can get my friend to come on and talk the Enneagram.
Sleeps.
Sleeps, you are your own number. You're a 10. They haven't even
10 out
created
of
you yet.
10. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
They
Sleep.
can't put you into words, Sleeps.
No,
And we don't want you to change. You just stay
don't
just
change.
like you are.
Yep. Just keep staying like that.
I think
I I
everybody needs a Sleeps in their life.
I
They
always say
do.
to them, like, you're like my conscience. Like, you're in the back of my conscience, the stuff that, like, loud and clear, I got that.
It sleeps.
Yes, sleeps.
Yeah. I said if he was ever cast in a film that he would be like the elusive like tech guy that like he's always around and he's always just like he's a safety guy, right? And so we're out here doing dumb things and he's like
Yes.
always getting our
Okay,
That's how
before
he
he
shows up as a
actually
Yes.
superhero.
before he actually
This is it.
spoke, I gave him like a Samuel L. Jackson voice. Like, because he's always very like witty and sarcastic. And I feel like at first when I like got to know Sleeps, I was like, man, he's like busting our chops pretty harsh, like a Samuel L. Jackson. But I love it. Like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, Sleeps is real. I felt like he was fake for a little
Yes.
bit. But
No, he's real.
I know, but I mean, seriously, I did. I gave him like a really tough, like Samuel Jackson voice until he started talking. And I was like, okay, I got to know him. Like, because he just like was really witty and kind of like always straight and to the point. Like, he like does not sugarcoat anything. And so I was like, okay, I'm giving him like a really tough, like voice in our dialogue.
He's Sleeps, you're so straightforward, and what you do in the chat, so that other people know this, is how you really are. Like when I talk to you verbally, there's no difference. you're you're
Mm-mm.
right to it, and I so respect that. And I'm sorry, the puppies are crying in the background. Being a parent is real, and having grandpuppies is too.
Grandpuppies, grandpuppies.
For real.
No,
It's
sleeps don't change.
interesting
Like, we love it.
seeing different Enneagram types in crypto, to be honest. It's not funny. We're all brought together by crypto, and and then something about this algorithm hits and it works. I mean, I just hung out with a bunch of people I talk on here with in Vegas. What is this life?
I don't know how to explain it to somebody.
It's like
Everything.
I don't hate it. I do not hate it. But Boston, man, he came. That was so fascinating. So fascinating. I just feel blessed that people feel like they can come on here and share that. Um I was trying to learn and understand like what etiquette of TikTok. I had no idea. So people have watched me like grow up on here, kind of. So I was like, and so when did you hear Live and Learn about my news? Did Jesse? Have I told you? We talked
I don't know
all
if I have.
day. We
Tell
talked
me.
all night last night. Well, I went to the XRP convention.
No, you did. I'm happy that you got to go. My son was graduating from college, so that's what I was doing.
Next
You
time.
traveled. I traveled.
Next time. But while I was there, learned a lot, got to hang out with Echo and Knowledge. Um, Here, I'm getting reverb. I'm just going to mute you real fast. But you're fine. Um, but while I was there, I got to meet Jimmy Valley, our controversial figure. And I got to get an interview with him. He's going to allow an interview with me. And so I've just been thinking about what I want to, you know, where I want my channel and my content and things to go. And I thought, I know I'm not going to be a go-to for crypto insight because I'm learning and I don't want to be that person. And I'm raising two babies. And and so I'm still learning. And what I really like this platform for is learning and hanging out with people that are in a way like-minded, but in so many other ways not like-minded. And so I'm like, why don't I just like marry those two things with this interview coming up with him and just make it, that's what I do. I get to learn from the community. I get to learn more about blockchain, but then other things that the community's doing because I do think we're headed towards really, really, really hard times, extremely hard times in our future. And all the evidence around us is pointing to that. That's not to be a fearful message. That's not to be I want to bring hope to the possible reality that we're about to experience. Whether this is just a short recession, or we go into depression, or we even go into unfortunate conflicts around the world, and um, or just a lot of people are hurting. I want to start now in our community, starting to talk about the issues, the current issues, the problems, but also bringing on people like Boston, who just presented his whole water knowledge he imparted on us, um, and bring those people on to talk about what they're doing, one, their insight and their knowledge just to pass on to us, but also um, the hope that comes with knowing that there's people out there, really good people that are working to make our future better and more beautiful. And I think that, man, Boston came in and just, that's going to have to be a part two for sure. For sure. Jesse, um, go back and listen. It was, did you hear the very end? Like, what parts did you?
I came in
Oh, you left.
back.
There you are.
I came in. He was getting super deep. Like we were like at the speed of light and beyond. And
Yeah,
that's
I'm gonna have to listen to it about 5 times to fully grasp what Boston was talking about. But I think it's like I think I got it. But I'm sure I didn't get it that like the void that he was talking about whenever it leaves the speed of light, that plane, and it exits the dimension. Man, that just absolutely blew my mind. But yeah, yeah. Let's see who else is in here. Cody, but
hey, I'm gonna have to hop off for a little bit.
okay. No,
If
you're
y'all are still
good.
live, I'll hop back up.
Okay, I'll probably stick around until 9 to tell people what
All right.
happened.
I just had a friend who texted me and I need to help her out. So if you're on, I'll hop
Absolutely.
back up. All right. See y'all.
Go do go do the good work. So Liv,
Congratulations. And do I have revert right now? Yeah, I do.
I
I
don't
can.
think so. You're fine. You're fine though. He,
So annoying. Congratulations to you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
you did a
This
great live. Your live was great.
thank you. I'm just I can't believe I messed up the time. But yeah.
That's all right. Tell me if, and I know I have revert everybody, but I want to know
No.
if knowledge and echo in person, did they strike you and when you met them in person the same way as in the space?
Same. The exact same. No different. Even Enrico, I got to meet Rico. Um, same. I got to meet 3T Warrior. Like just, Coach JV, the same. Just brought the same energy. It was good to see authenticity. There we go. Authenticity was dead on. So, yeah.
I think that's great. I think that it's great that they turned out to be like the same kind of way that you like perceive
Thank
them because
you.
that's kind of fun when you like meet somebody that you've spoken to, that you've been live with, that there's in the chat, whatever, and they turn out to be the way that you think that they are and not like something opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. And my husband came along with us and he hung out with them. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Did your
So,
husband have a like? Is he like into this? Is he as into it as you are?
no, not as in. He supports it. He's like, go have fun. He allows me to live this weird life, and it's taking me places. So I'm excited. I'm excited just to learn more because I don't, as a stay-at-home mom, I don't get that. I would never get to know a person like Boston, much less get to have, spend time with us and talk about those things. So I just feel lucky to get to do it. In no other space of a stay-at-home mom, would I
You're
get
right.
to interview a man like Jimmy Valley. That that's exciting to me. So, and then other people that I've gotten to meet. So, if my crypto does take off, good. Like I feel like I've already been. This sounds really corny. I'm already rich. So, it's been a journey
I
though. I
say this as a mom who stayed home with kids for 27 years. Like there's a lot that gets missed out upon because you're home. You take in a whole lot of other stuff, and I've learned so my kids have taught me basically just about all the good stuff I know. But you miss out like the technical end of this. Technical crypto never sleeps would be like technical. It's just a computer and your phone. The learning curve is real. It's not a joke. It is absolutely, and it's like a brain thing. You just gotta like force into making it happen, no matter how many times. Like really, ledgers, other places that you go to do stuff. It's real.
it is
Yeah.
sleeps. Sleeps. Do you want to come on? Did you get anything from Bob? Oh, he's banned. Never mind.
I think he was just who's live. We were in Dark Horses live. He was up.
Oh,
He
has he?
probably can't go live because he got a ban, but he could go on your live. He
We
just can't
don't
go live.
don't see him as an option here. But yeah. Um, are you coming next year to XRP Vegas
That depends on what this year is gonna do.
in terms of events?
On everything in my life. On
Oh,
everything in my life. Yeah.
gotcha. Gotcha.
If let me put it to you this way. Let's say if next year and my son who holds a little bag does good with that bag, he owes me something out of that bag. So that'll be it, and I'll hold myself to that. If that
Gotcha.
happens by next year, this time next year, I'll be there.
Alrighty. It's almost 9. I'll probably get off a little bit after 9 to put my babies to bed. But it's good to catch up with you. How was your son's graduation?
It was really good. He was really happy, and he has like a new girlfriend. I mean, he never really had one in the past, so like she was awesome. I was like proud of him. I was like, you like selected like a really great individual to spend your time with. And I apologize because I'm babysitting puppies right now, and they just keep throwing the ball and hiding it under the couch on purpose. So
You're good. You're good. Hi,
if you can hear
baby.
me
Yeah, hi,
crying.
baby.
She wants me under the couch. And the kids were like, Mom, don't go under the couch and get the balls for them, or they're just going to keep doing it. And of course, I do. I do it
Yeah,
because I feel bad.
so funny. We don't have XRP. I don't know what that means. All right. So, anyway, I know I said that we would have Boston here at 9, but here, let me.
That's your friend from high school.
That is my friend from high school.
Yeah.
He's a mess. It's a mess.
That was funny comment.
It's a
I
mess.
didn't expect that to be. I'm looking down. I'm like, it's probably like Sleeps that wrote that.
Hi, those two. So, if you're joining because you thought Boston would be here, he presented an hour earlier. I got the time wrong. It was my fault, but I will be reposting it to my YouTube channel, which is Block Unchained. There's nothing on there right now, but head over there in a few days, and there probably will be. I'm going to have other guests on here, like Jimmy Valley. I'm going to get Prep and Money um, to talk about his story and how to, maybe put some cushion, some prep between you and what's to come. Let's see, Jake. U.S. debt ceiling is up in June. Does U.S. turn to quantitative ease or raise the debt ceiling? Here, I'm going to mute you real fast while I answer that. U.S. debt ceiling is up in June. Does U.S. turn quantitative easing or raise the debt ceiling? So they always say this one might be different, and I don't know if it's going to be different. Um, it's interesting times, and if we've learned anything from the past, 3 years? Never say never. And so, will we default? I find it fascinating that here's something to think about. They moved FedNow. FedNow was supposed to roll out in 2024. And I said, if they are planning this, I find it interesting that they moved it up a whole year to 2023. And I said it would be evidence that that if we have a liquidity crisis around that time, it will be evidence to me that yes, like this was planned, that's where we're headed. And so, as far as quantitative easing, I don't see them quantitative easing anytime soon. I really don't. Because then you risk hyperinflation. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If the Fed, um, the Fed play in here too, which is causing this. But again, okay, if they raise the ceiling again, bye-bye USD. It will change, definitely. It won't be the same. Can you come up and talk about that? Let's see. Are you on? Do you have 1,000 followers? Everyone go follow Jake. He seems to know what's up. That's my opinion too. I don't know if it'll go bye-bye, but it'll definitely shift, reset to something, possibly a basket of commodities. Because we have the capability of that now through this blockchain technology. It's very suspicious to me. What do you think, Jake? Wait, okay. I work for a prominent Australian bank. How are your banks doing there? Any runs? Pardon, I'm drinking my LaCroix. More water. Boston's orders. Excuse me. Jake, do you think we'll raise the debt ceiling? Hey, Liv, do you think we'll raise the debt ceiling?
I think that Jake is asking the $1,000,000 question. Well, it's billions and trillions of dollars. What are they really going to do? No one seems to have like the right answer. Nobody's in agreement with. Nobody knows with what they're going to do, but they're going to have to make a decision. And I can hear the revert.
You're good. Let's see. If they raise the so you're saying if they raise this bye bye, it's Our debt is becoming unserviceable. Jerome Powell even said that when he testified before Congress a few weeks ago. Um, so yeah, we keep raising the debt ceiling, and this is why I think it's an end of a fiat. I think it's the start of the end of our fiat currency system. Everything that needs to be true for a fiat currency to collapse has started, including people in other countries jumping off it as the reserve currency, and that touches the money. The petrodollar countries jumping off of it, it affects the U.S. dollar in massive, massive ways because one of the only reasons we are allowed to print the way that we are allowed to print money is because other countries use our dollars for trade. Our number one export as Americans is the US dollar. And as soon as that becomes not to be true, we start to have a lot of problems. A lot of cracks in the system have shown up. Um, what do you think about that, Liv? Does that make sense? Why I can't unmute you? Why can't I unmute you? There you go. Okay.
it gave me the message, so we're good. What do I think that not, I personally don't think, I think that certain people like us maybe know more about the tech, not the, even the tech, but like the software of what they're going to be using to make money move. And I think that the majority of other people have heard about it on the news, and they'll probably just like, they'll change it into like a digital dollar, and they won't probably not get away with, but get rid of paper dollars completely yet.
No.
Because then there would be like people my parents' age, etc. They would not know they can't operate the technology. And I apologize again for the
You're
background.
not getting it on my end. No, you're fine.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, you're not bad at all. Go ahead.
There's counterfeit. It's all I could go there. Crypto never sleeps. I'll get banned. But
Invite, learn to earn up. Learn to earn is wicked smart. Let's see if he comes up.
learn to earn he's fun. He's in Canada, right? I think
I
he's
think
in.
so.
Is he in British Columbia? I think. Or is he in Toronto? He's not in Toronto, is he? No.
He might be.
I think he's in
But
British.
he knows a lot about the financial system. I would like to get intricacy of that, but it's been fascinating. My content has aged extremely well. All those crazy conspiracies, people saying the banks won't fail. You're talking about bank runs in 2023. And I was like, yes, I am. And here we are. And I'm not saying like, here we are. I'm saying like, here we are. So what's the Oklahoma weather like tonight? Well, I can tell you that we had to leave my cousin's graduation ceremony early and outrun baseball size hail.
Oh. It's raining in Pennsylvania too. Since I've been down here, it's been like very wet and rain. I'm in the South normally, so like, I don't. It's wow, baseball sized hail.
Oh, last night? Was it last night? Was it last night or the night before? No, that was Thursday. Thursday night, my house was missed by a tornado by like less than a fourth a mile.
Oh my
It was the
God.
closest I'd ever came to a tornado. And then the next night, I sat on my back porch. No, that was the same night, Thursday night, and I filmed 3 tornadoes live.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
I'm just sitting there, and they were all around me. Like one was starting. And so There's a few times we could see the funnel, but you know, swirling clouds,
Were
the
you
whole
like
thing. It was
nervous?
fascinating.
Were you like a little bit like, do we need to scoop the kids up and start driving the car a different direction? Or
Today we did. I was like, I don't want my car damaged. And so we like hugged everyone real fast and like took off the opposite direction that the storm was headed. Almost got caught in it. Um, but the tornado that almost hit, my babies weren't with me. They were spending the night at my in-law or my parents' house, and it was the scariest time of my life. And so I was like praying that the tornado would come towards me, and so it missed them, and it did start coming towards us, and but we missed it that close, though, the closest I've come.
that's
I
so scary. I'd probably be
I
either
have a
I
picture
just
of it.
completely calm and be like, whatever's about to happen is going to happen and it'll just happen how it's supposed to happen, or I'd be freaking out.
I see I like storms and I don't like them close, but I don't get afraid. But my level of anxiety is a lot more when they're close to my house because I have animals. Like we would have lost an entire farm. I mean, it would be the house that would be bad, but then we've worked so hard to create the sustainable farm, that would be really devastating to lose. And so
It'd be
whenever you hear the anxiety in my voice, it's like it's we put a lot of work into this place, and there's people all around me that have lost everything, including animals, their farm, their barns. One town got hit twice, like back to back, by tornadoes this past week.
Oh
Yeah,
my
whole
gosh, in
Oklahoma.
1 week? Oh my gosh. That's terrible.
Oklahoma has a lot of frogs that come out at night. Oh. Well, anyway, I'm gonna head downstairs. It was a good first live. Boston came bringing the heat. So, when was this? The tornadoes? Thursday night? Yeah. All right, everyone. Good night. I'll see you
Thank
later, Liv.
you. You did
Thanks for
great.
stopping in.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
guys.
much. We'll talk
Thanks.
to you later. Bye.